welcome to episode 4 of season 2 of the Doctors Who podcast.
Hey guys, this is our, I think really our second foray into the video sphere.
We upgraded some equipment. We've experimented a little bit with some video editing and things like that. By no means experts, probably novices.
I'd say that's fair, but if you're watching
Yeah.
this, it means at least we were somewhat successful.
Right. So we're gonna continue what we've started. As always, we have beer to drink, which we'll get to here shortly, and then we're not going to cover one, but we're going to cover 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery season 2.
Yeah, we wanted to do them together because, well, we're a little behind, but I think, like, again, the story is, or the season really is a story that's it's kind of broken out piece by piece, and it made sense to kind of put
Yeah.
a couple of these together.
And also, we just sat down to watch episode 2, New Eden, and immediately after we're like,
We need to do another one.
We're just gonna keep going. We're not gonna stop. So you're gonna get 2 for the price of 1.
Awesome.
So for the beer of the week this week, we've dove back into bomber territory.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We'll go with that. This is something I went out and I picked up tonight. It's by Toppling Goliath Brewing out of Decorah, Iowa. We've probably had some of theirs before,
I'm pretty sure we have.
but this is the Naughty 90 Oaked Ale. According to Untapped, it is a traditional ale, coming in at around 8% with 100 IBUs.
Which was surprising to me. I feel like once you hit about 50, you're kind of in the IPA territory.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what. When I think of an ale, I usually think of something that's light and crisp,
Right.
something not too hoppy. I think traditional ales, and I looked it up briefly too, and it looked like traditional ales are beer that aren't brewed with as many hops, or it's very hop light.
Yeah.
So we'll see what this one tastes like.
Yeah, we really have no idea, so we're going to dive right in.
This part's exciting.
If I can open the bottle. All right, hand me your glass. Okay, so we do have a good bit of head on this. We've got an amber color. Not sure what color I was expecting, but
I mean, maybe it's just the ales that I've had, but usually I think of ales as being a little bit lighter in color. But I suppose this isn't too far out of the range of possibility.
it does smell like an ale, though. It doesn't smell like an IPA to me.
I'll give you that. It doesn't smell overly hoppy. I don't think I would have guessed this has 100 hops in it.
No.
Sorry,
So-
100 IBU.
I'm tasting some hops. Mostly, I'm tasting a lot of malt.
There is a lot of malt in that. It's heavier than some of the ales, but like it's not.
Yeah, it's
It's not
it's
bad.
thick. You can tell it's an 8%er, and yeah, there's a lot of malt in there. So this is interesting. Don't know that I would buy it again,
Yeah,
but
you know, to each their own. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not bad. If okay, looking at the Untapped scale of 1 to 5, what would you rank this one?
oh, so I realize this is kind of cheating, but looking at the average rating, out of 3,125 individual ratings, this gets a 3.8 overall. I'm probably in the 3.5 to 3.75 range.
I think that's pretty fair. And I'm probably just a little bit above that. I'd say somewhere between 3.75 and 4.
Well, as as I advance in age, the thicker, heavier, stronger beers are a little less appealing to me. So that might also affect what my
Yeah,
rating is a little bit.
I wouldn't want to drink more than one of these glasses in a given night.
Sure.
Unless you're really well prepared for this type of evening, because yeah, again, it kind of feels heavy. Like I had a big supper, but this
Yeah.
kind of feels like it's about the same size as my much larger supper.
Right. So let's look at the flavor profile. The options that are pre-populating here are oaky. Check.
Yeah.
This is aged in oak barrels.
Yep.
Malty. Also check.
Check.
Smooth. Okay, hold on.
I mean, I wouldn't say that it's overly bitter. I wouldn't say that it's overly rough.
I'm not
Like,
gonna go with smooth. I don't get that.
I mean, it's not.
The next flavor profile is coffee.
I don't get coffee with
I
this.
don't get any coffee. And then the final one, which I totally agree with, is boozy.
Yes. Yep. You
So-
can definitely tell there's a good punch to it.
I'm gonna check those. We are going to do a quick beer photo.
That's a beaut, Clark.
Thanks. Shitter's full. Sorry. All right, I'm checked in. I unlocked a badge, middle of the road, level 14. Looking for more kick than a session beer, but wanted to be able to stay in for a few rounds, you have to keep it in the middle. That's 70 beers with an ABV greater than 5 and less than 10. And I also got Land of the Free, level 33. You've pledged allegiance, and now it's time to enjoy some beer. Now remember, not all American beer is fizzy and yellow. That's 165 different beers from a brewery in the United States. So I feel like I'm accomplished now. As always, feel free to find us on Untapped. My login or my username is elcrisp. That's ELKRISP.
And mine is Brian J. Brian_JAY.
All right. Now I'm going to enjoy a little bit more of this traditional kick you in the butt ale.
Good call. So, as we mentioned in the beginning of the episode, we're going to be covering 2 episodes tonight. We're going to be covering both the I
Season
just blanked.
or episode 2, which was New Eden,
New Eden, and then Points of Light, which is the
third episode.
But before we get into those, we thought we would kind of talk about some general things, non-spoilery things. So if you haven't seen it yet, that's all right. Keep with us. We'll just talk about some things in general, and then we will give you the cue, and then we will go more in depth into the individual episodes.
Yeah. Before I forget.
Oh, nice shirt. Is that new?
No, I've had this for quite a while. It's available on the Roddenberry shop. So, if you need a red shirt, go to the Roddenberry shop.
I suddenly feel much safer with you wearing that shirt, because I know whatever bad's going to happen won't happen to me.
Yeah, you're pretty much in the clear at this point, so that's good. Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna kind of just talk high level, some non-spoilery topics before we dive into what actually happened. That way, if you haven't seen this, you're not gonna be like, well, crap, now it's ruined for me. We will warn you. We will give you time to go to that play pause button and press it. So don't worry about that. Stick with us to that point. If you haven't seen it, we hope you have seen it, and we'd love for you to go along with us the rest of the way.
So, both New Eden and Points of Light are continuing the story that we've seen so far this season.
Yeah.
One nice thing about the season so far is you can tell that there's kind of a story arc brewing. A lot of different loose ends that we have kind of going on, interwoven.
But they also bring in some familiar themes that we've seen in previous Trek.
Absolutely. The first being, what is the Prime Directive.
Yeah, General Order 1.
General Order 1. We've seen this on pretty much every series of Star Trek up until this point. It really is kind of, and for those who don't know, it is the non-involvement with beings or with planets or people that have not experienced warp capability yet.
Right. So if people from Star Trek would visit our Earth tomorrow, they would be subject to General Order 1 of the Prime Directive because we're not warpy.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting philosophical point as well, which
It is.
goes beyond the scope of our show. But
Well, and it really drives, kind of in the past it's driven kind of this moral quandary, right? The captain has to make this choice. Do they uphold the Prime Directive at some great cost, or do they break it for, the purpose of saving lives or doing some other fortuitous thing, right? So it's still something that I think kind of has that
like the universality.
je ne
of it,
sais quoi.
yeah.
I lost that train of thought. I'm gonna blame the traditional ale.
But it is a good point that, and again, we've seen this. I don't want to call it a trope, but we've seen this before. But it has some new flavor to it this time.
Yeah,
I thought-
it's handled pretty well, I think.
And it has some twists compared to the generic, what we've seen before in TOS and
Right.
TNG. But yeah, I thought it was kind of the same sort of thing, but with a little bit of a different flavor.
Well, and they managed to work it into this overarching storyline that they've got, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit, and this isn't spoilery because I think the trailers talked about the Red Angels and the 7 points of light that appeared. So this works into that, and you start to get some idea of maybe some motivation behind these Red Angels. Is that a fair statement?
And maybe even I don't want to say like the dire nature of them.
Yeah.
But like there's something that's connecting all of these
Right.
things, and they're trying to get to the bottom of it. So
Right.
Fulfilling their primary mission while not disobeying the Prime Directive.
Right. And then if we move to points of light, we get something that we didn't get until the Next Generation, but we get to see what life is like on the Klingon homeworld in the Klingon Empire. And we get to see Ash Tyler, who has... Okay, so here's a question. Are we at the point where we're going to spoil Season 1? We didn't talk about this before, so it's kind of an open topic. I mean, it's been a year, right? It should be enough time.
I would think so, but I also, well, I don't know. Like with streaming, it's different with streaming content.
That's true. Okay.
I feel like
we won't spoil.
Okay.
Needless
probably
to
a good
say,
call.
there's a human assisting the Chancellor of the Klingon Empire, and that is cause for some internal friction.
I think that's maybe an understatement, and
Yeah, probably.
although that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that on the Klingon homeworld there's some sort of angst going on.
I mean, yeah, they seem kind of emo in that violent bloodletting kind of way. But sorry, I keep looking at the light.
Don't go towards the light.
Well, so for those of you that watched our first YouTube video, we did the blood wine tasting, and the lighting wasn't great. Since then, we've invested in a lighting kit, so we've got like 2 professional-looking stands with the white umbrellas, kind of blasting light into our face, and it's a little distracting. I imagine it looks pretty impressive here, but you're not going to notice a darn thing on the screen. So, trust us, it looks cool.
Well, and I think Chris is also understating, how good he looks in the camera under these lights. So
It's the little man ponytail bun thing, isn't it?
well, it's kind of hard to see on the. Yep, turn this way. There you go. There you go.
I mean, I'm kind of pulling the Ash Tyler look off really well.
Yeah,
So maybe that's
it's a good cosplay idea for this
cosplay or
spring.
Halloween or something like that. So I've got that lined up. Yeah. So really, there are some side things that happen in Points of Light, but I feel like the emphasis is really on the Klingon political situation.
And as much as I try to avoid political drama in my day-to-day life, it's kind of fun watching it on TV in this perspective.
In subtitles.
With subtitles, yes. That's just, again, like one of the things I really like about the show is the fact that they are not afraid to do Klingon and then having subtitles below.
And I think we talked about this before, but just the Klingon language, how it's spoken in this show, like it sounds like muffled and guttural and alien, and I'm not sure if that's because of like the fake teeth and mouth and prosthetic things that they do, or if that was an intentional, hey, let's make this sound a little more alien.
I feel like, well, didn't they win an Emmy, or were they at least nominated for something for for their costuming?
Oh, and another thing, we get, I mean, it's just a sentence, but we get some reasoning as to why the season 1 Klingons were bald.
We do. And it almost felt like it was needing to be said, and I think a lot of people had been crying for an explanation, and they didn't really address it.
And I wonder if this explanation was because they were like, okay, we shouldn't have made the Klingons bald. That was a screw up. We need to retcon this moving forward. How do we do it? It's kind of like, well, it's not exactly like, but I kind of liken it to the first Star Wars movie before it was called A New Hope. The last scene where they get the medal, everybody except Chewbacca, right? And then afterwards they're like, oh, well, in Wookiee culture it's not honorable to accept that sort of award, and that's why he didn't. I think George Lucas actually came out and said it was a logistical, like, Carrie Fisher couldn't reach up high enough to get one around his neck.
That's not surprising.
So maybe, I don't know. Or he thought Wookiees were second-class species. It could go either way. Anyway, have we exhausted non-spoilery content?
I guess one other thing that maybe we should note, I don't think we've talked about this before, but Jonathan Frakes,
right, Riker, number
was
one,
the one who directed this. So
he directed was it Points of Light or New Eden?
Oh boy,
I think it was Points of Light.
I think you're right.
No, no, I was
it not.
It was the second one. It was New Eden.
The second one? You mean the second one we watched today? Or
the second one in the season.
Oh yeah. Okay.
We are perpetually confused, so now you've kind of gotten a window into our life.
We are in a room in the TARDIS, are we not? So I guess wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so yes, Jonathan Frakes did direct this episode. He also directed one from season 1. I believe it was one of the Mirror Universe episodes. Oh, I just might have spoiled something.
Well, I guess
whoopsie-daisy.
You didn't hear it from us.
Right. Blame the red shirt. So where was I going with this? Oh, right. Frakes has done a lot of directing lately, though. He's also directed a couple episodes of The Orville, which a lot of diehard old-school Star Trek fans think is more Star Trek than Star Trek Discovery. I'm not here to debate the semantics of that, but it's, if you get used to the poop jokes, it's not bad television.
And I've been watching, he actually directed some of the episodes of The Librarian, which was a 4-season show on TNT. So, anyway.
Yeah.
Kind of a side
Dr.
viewer.
Carter from ER?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Cool.
Done with the non-spoiler content. So,
all right, here we go.
We're going to give you to 5, 4,
3, 2, 1. You have been warned.
Okay. This is on your head now. Okay, so things I liked about Points of Light.
How about if we go with New Eden first?
That's what I meant. I meant that. New Eden. We talked about the Prime Directive scenario, and how it kind of tied into the overall plot. Like, you know, so they detected another one of these red balls of energy and when
And it's a ways away.
yeah, right. So they have to actually use the spore drive, and they have to plug Stamets back in, and he's not too happy about this. But
No.
where I think I was going with this was they get there and they send a small landing party down, and then the ship discovers that like there's an extinction level event that's going to wipe out the human colonists on this planet. And part of the rest of this mystery is, why are there human colonists this far out in the beta quadrant when it would take you 150 years to warp there? So there's this unanswered question of, how did humans get this far out, and how have they been there for, we find out, what, 200
years, yeah.
So
Since the beginning of
Yeah.
World War III.
right.
And the thing that I found interesting with it too was the philosophy of, we've always heard about the Prime Directive, but we've never actually heard about the Prime Directive using humans. That we're trying
Yeah.
to protect the humans against the Prime Directive.
Right.
So,
So
it was an interesting
yeah.
take.
Yeah, that was. I didn't even piece that together, but that was interesting. But I mean, they arrive at the planet and they get this distress call that they're under attack, right? They find out that it's been cycling for 200 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the big mystery, right?
Yeah.
Why were we sent here? What's up with this distress call? And the landing party experiences this very peaceful, primitive civilization.
Mm-hmm.
They're not technologically advanced. They're content to work with their hands and go about their daily life. They remember, or they've been passed down stories of being on Earth, and their ancestors went into this church to seek refuge during World War III, and they were just magically transported somehow. And one of the things that I really liked was Pike and Burnham, and I don't remember if anybody else was in this conversation as well, but they started talking about how, if there's science advanced enough that you don't understand it, it looks like magic.
Mm-hmm.
And Pike makes the comment that it was later revisited, and it's like anything that happens that looks like it might be God could be just a more advanced alien species.
Sure.
So they kind of took the principle and extended it a little bit, which I thought was kind of a neat touch. But the connotation and the idea there was like this appearance of this red point of light was meant to pull them there to perform some sort of rescue or good, right?
Right.
And kind of tying into that, Amanda, Spock's mom, Burnham's foster mom, showing up on the ship, kind of tied some of that
Yes.
together as well.
Yeah, it just seemed like, again, watching this episode, there was so much that was thrown at us. And then the questions of, well, why was there a point of light over in this quadrant? Why, should they be rescuing these people? Should they not? And just, the society which has survived so well on its own, do they really need rescuing? And should they even be notified that, Earth has moved on, Earth has survived?
Right.
I don't know. I thought it was a good episode.
It was, yeah. I don't think it was as strong as the first episode.
I would agree.
But it put them on a planet. It put them in a situation where they had this, like we said before, Toppling Goliath, thanks for the belch. Put them in kind of this moral quandary, like we said before. And when Amanda shows up on the ship and starts talking to Burnham about Spock, they kind of go back to recounting, oh, well, remember when you were a kid and this bad thing had happened to you, and we found you just in the nick of time, and it turned out Spock knew where she was and that she was in danger because the Red Angel told him. So that kind of ties another piece together, that the Red Angel is like, they're pulling people together.
And it's been going on for a long time.
Right.
There's been a plan for this.
Right. So it looks. I don't know. We're gaining more insight, and I'm not sure I understand what it is yet. But I think that's probably the intent of the showrunners and the season writers.
Yes.
So, definitely worth checking out. It I think built a lot of supporting characters a little bit more. So you got a lot more with Tilly. You got to you got some more with Stamets. I really like Stamets. Just he as an actor, he nails that character. And you start to see more from the helmsman. I think her name is Detmer. She does some tricky flying. So I like the fact that we're starting to build up some of these.
It's becoming more of an ensemble type of performance.
Yeah.
It's not just Michael Burnham.
It's not just the Michael Burnham show.
Right. Which, I mean, she's a great actress, but at the same time, it's nice having multiple characters you can draw from.
Right. So yeah, solid episode. And I think we can probably move on to Points of Light.
I think so.
Yeah. So this one is very heavy on the Klingon politics, like we said. So Ash Tyler, formerly Volk of the first season, the white-skinned albino Klingon follower of T'Kuvma, who was surgically butchered to look human to infiltrate the Discovery crew. He's been following L'Rell around. She's the Chancellor, and this is causing her some problems because she has a human torchbearer, and the Klingons at this point in time don't really like humans.
Yeah, they're kind of traditional that way, which I get. They're more or less just coming back from being in their separate tribes. They're coming together.
Sure.
Oh, one of my favorite parts with this episode, just again, like I don't know why I'm fascinated by this part in particular, but they showed the schematic of the D7 Bird of Prey.
Yeah, the original Klingon cruiser that you see in the
that was awesome.
60s series. Yeah.
For whatever reason, they bring back these little pieces of nostalgia, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember seeing this on TOS when it first arrived, and it was just like these little nuggets that take you back.
And they used that D7 in Star Trek The Motion Picture. They used it in the Kobayashi Maru. And
they use it in a lot of video games. I used to play Starfleet Command all the time, and they had the D7s there. It's like the quintessential.
It's iconic. It's right up there with the Bird of Prey, I think.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that was cool to see.
I completely lost my train of thought.
Yeah, me too. But really, it's interesting that Tyler chose to reach out to Burnham to say, hey, L'Rell might be losing some support. This might not be great for the Federation. They may not be as unified as they appear. And that ends up just getting them all in trouble because that's being basically a traitor, right?
Yeah. Well,
so if he was already suspect before, he's more so now.
Well, and again, this episode is great too in the sense that it gave you a sense of all of the different factions, like the 24 houses,
right?
And how they all have a different idea on what the future should look like for the Klingons.
Yeah, and this is where we touched in the non-spoiler part. There was an offhand comment by Burnham that, oh yeah, since the war ended, I've heard the Klingons are growing out their hair again.
Yeah.
So, pretty simple explanation.
Good touch.
So, yeah, that's that. Klingon hair must grow really fast.
Certainly faster than mine.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah, because they were, since season 2 picked up moments after season 1 ended, and they've already got shoulder length hair. I mean, I've been working on this for about a year now, and I'm a little jealous.
I have a feeling that Klingons have protein-rich diets.
That's probably true.
Maybe it's the blood wine.
That could be. Another cool thing about this is we see the reemergence of Philippa Georgiou of Section 31.
Yes.
And
she seems like she's doing well.
She's doing well for herself, yeah. Section 31 doubtlessly is a little concerned about
Um,
the destabilization of the Klingon Empire. It was
yeah,
just like my brain just like stopped for a minute. It's like, okay, I gotta catch my breath and go.
Yeah, that sounds a bit, well, again, not to take too many people on a history lesson, but that sounds like U.S. government involvement in several different wars, any sort of Saudi Arabian or South American regime. The thing that I like about these shows, especially, this season of Discovery, is that it's really, like, it's trying to be very relevant without talking about
Yeah.
specific current events. So it's
Yep.
trying to, bring about thoughts and discussions just in a different context.
And let's be honest, that's what good science fiction does, right? Because Battlestar Galactica did it around the time of, 9/11 and like the emergence of ISIS, the hunting of Osama bin Laden and things like that. They kind of flipped the suicide bomber angle on its ear, which
Mm-hmm.
surprised people. It also pissed some people off. So I think good science fiction will find a way to make real world topics relevant and talked about, but not necessarily blatant.
It gives us a better arena to talk about these things without
Yeah.
talking about specific day-to-day things that are going on in our world.
Right. So that's, yeah, I mean, I think that's just,
Good writing.
yeah, it is. Um,
Uh,
the ghost story
Yeah.
was a little interesting.
I don't really know what to think about that. I mean, other than, I guess let me hear your thoughts before I
Well,
jump into mine.
so just to recap, right? The last on the first episode, they brought that huge asteroid into the docking bay or the shuttle bay, and Tilly went down to try and like extract a sample of it, and she got it, and it reacted and like sent her across the room and almost killed her. After she got to sick bay and they patched her up, she started like, and she didn't realize it at first, but she started
Mm-hmm.
seeing this, like a classmate of hers that had died was like appearing in front of her and talking to her and trying to get her to do certain things, and she thought she was losing her freaking mind. It honestly, I think it serves to kind of elevate her than more than just a random ensign,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't overly care for the storyline. I really like how she handled the material and how she acted and her delivery. I think
Mm-hmm.
she did a great job, but I just didn't care for that particular piece.
I think,
Yeah.
looking at the trailer for the fourth episode, I almost felt like this I don't know if it's like a symbiote or a parasite or whatever it ended up being. Like, it
Yeah.
looks like it plays a bigger role in the next episode, and I almost wonder if they thought, hey, let's have this great episode with this parasite where it like
I mean, maybe
does
that's it.
something crazy. But
Maybe
we have
this
to
is
get it
build
there
up
first.
and we're gonna see the payoff, but
Yeah,
there yet.
I thought
Yeah.
the delivery was a little ho-hum because, Tilly was like, all right, let's just remove this sucker because I don't want this around. And then
Mhm.
it kind of floated off and it was in engineering, and then that was kind of the end of the episode. So
Yeah.
I have a feeling it comes back with the vengeance. We'll probably get a little bit more as far as an answer. But
Right.
yeah, it felt a little, I don't want to say forced, but I'm guessing we'll see a better role for this later on.
I think so. And the episode kind of rounded out going back to the Klingon homeworld. Giorgio, concerned about the destabilization, popped in at a very opportune time because it turns out that L'Rel and Voke, before Voke got humanized, had a child. She chose to have, I think, the embryo extracted and basically grown in a lab or something, right?
That was the gist I got, yeah.
But basically, they have this child that one of her relatives has been keeping a secret, and she's never seen the child, and Tyler didn't know he had a child. So they decide that, you know what, we're gonna raise the kid. We're gonna do good by this and screw everybody else. And turns out, General Core. Do you remember Core from the original series? And I think he also appeared on Deep Space Nine.
Oh, vaguely, yes, vaguely.
I want to say this is the same guy, or maybe it's Cole.
Yeah,
I'm getting
yeah.
my Klingons mixed up. Anyway, this old Klingon basically kidnaps the infant and says, hey, you're going to hand over chancellorship of the Empire to me, or the kid's going to bite it. There's a big Klingon fight with the Batleths and things like that, and Laurel and Tyler are holding their own until they're not, and then Section 31 shows up and kind of saves the day.
Yeah. And they pose an interesting question, specifically for the Chancellor, if she's willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of peace.
Right.
What would you do?
Because she's ready to hold firm to Tyler and her infant son.
Absolutely.
She's like, screw everybody else. I'm going to honor my family.
And so she said, Section 31 raises the question, would you kill your husband or your child in order to ensure
Peace.
Well, next scene. That was pretty
well done.
Yeah.
She comes out and says that basically her human torchbearer betrayed the Empire. She holds up his severed head. She said that he killed the infant, right?
Yeah.
So they basically had fake heads for these, and then Tyler and the infant are on the Section 31 ship, which looks pretty fancy. Cloak,
right?
Can go from point A to point B pretty quick. So Laurel wants the child sent to a monastery to become, I guess, pure Klingon, and this basically gives way for Ash Tyler to return to the humans and Starfleet and the Discovery and be on the show again.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad thing. I really liked his character in season 1. I remember halfway through people were speculating that Voq and Tyler were the same person because the person they had listed as playing Voq, nobody could find that this person actually existed or something like that. So
that's cool.
There was some internet buzz about that, and it turned out to be correct. But good start to the season. We're now 3 episodes in. I think this is a 13 or a 14 order season, so we've got 10 or 11 more to go. I'm excited to see where they take this.
And we both looked at each other at the end of the episode, and it's just, there's so many different threads going. There's so many different stories that they have going on. What's up with this Red Angel? What's up with Spock? Because we haven't even touched on Spock, but there's some problems there.
There are, and maybe we'll get into that when we have a little more clarity on what's going on.
Good idea. Yep.
So, still turning out to be a really solid season. The elements they're pulling in from existing Star Trek canon seem to be making sense. They're not overbearing. They work well within the story.
I like what they're doing.
So, we will catch episode 4 as it airs on Thursday, and we will be back with you for another episode after that. So thank you for the delay. Well, no, not thank you for the delay. Thank you for being okay with the delay, and we will see you next time.
Awesome. Till then, allons-y.